All right, troops. Ray, pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. How you been keeping?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Life's been 100 miles an hour, but can't complain.
Yeah, well, and I'm noticing now that when the night's getting colder, I'm like, right, I'm having to put my, house coat on. And I'm asking people this: do you call it house coat or do you call it something else?
House coat, no idea. I call it. I need a bird to sort of try and to warm me up. That's what I call it. And I don't have that, so as a result, I'm cold.
It's like I'm just like, right, I just need to get myself wrapped up. I just look like I'm like, like a B movie, Little Red Riding Hood. Just like wrapped up, just shivering, like, I wish some wolf would try and eat me. At least I'd be warm.
Or I'd
But
like
we're
to
not,
eat, or I'd like to eat the wolf to warm up.
yeah, I'd eat the wolf for that, like a kebab or something. I think Scotland would do that, the wolf kebab.
Well, I sort of touched on it with one of my stand-ups because with being of Indian origin, I think you heard this. Being of Indian origin, when I go into an Indian takeaway, like most people from Scotland, they hear sizzling. I don't hear sizzling because I'm of Indian origin and the food's so bad. Instead of sizzling, I hear the sound of my ancestors crying.
Yes, you definitely did use that one. And just like the first time I was ended with that, I was just like, oh my God, that was absolutely amazing. And since you're talking about ancestors, actually leads me into the first question, which is about your origins, because the one thing we have in common is that we all have an origins. So, Ray, for my followers, please tell us your origin story.
My origin story, myself or my parents' or ancestry, or
We'll start with the basics. So, where were you born?
I was born in Glasgow, moved to
Mm,
Texas age 3.
wow. So, what was it? Just like family kind of upheaval? What was there? What job opportunities? What?
My parents wanted to become rednecks and wanted to be inbred and live in a motorhome in Texas.
You just moved out to
No,
Airdrie.
no, I'm joking. Exactly. Bells Hill, Airdrie, Hamilton, no,
I
Paisley,
know.
Paisley. I'm sort of dating on and off a girl from Paisley, and like she's 1 minute, like this evening, she was like messaging me saying, "Oh, horny shit, she wants me to come over." And then towards the end of the parents' evening, I look at her messages, and it's like she's going total psycho on me, getting angry at me about something I knew nothing about. But anyways, no. So the real reason we moved to Texas is there's different versions of the story, but it was the oil boom at the time.
Right.
It was the 80s and Texas was booming. So
Mm.
we opened up apartments like 1, 2, 3 bedroom apartments to rent, and this particular complex was rented to students. Problem was so many people thought of the same thing and did the same thing. So
Mm.
yeah, that's becoming really hard.
All right. So when did you move back to Scotland?
Moved back age 14,
Oh,
and
well, that's fairness. That's what, 11 years. That's what, no kick in the teeth by any stretch of the imagination for how long you were there.
I'll never forget my first day in school. It looked and sounded as if some wee boy came up to me and it sounded like he was like choking or like he was about to vomit. That's what it sounded like. That was the sound he was making. But then I
Yeah.
realized that was just the sound of the Glasgow accent.
Yeah. What one of the ones that I always say with that is like it's kind of like you're being mauled by like a grizzly bear because they're just like, "Hey, what have you been up to? Doris, you want to go that way to the street?"
I couldn't understand what people were saying. I really struggled. I
Yeah.
think I still no.
And well,
My
in fairness, like you'd been in Glasgow, and then at 3 you moved to Texas, so it's hard enough understanding that. And then 14 you're coming back to Glasgow, and it's even harder to understand this. Then
yeah,
you'll
I
just
mean
be like, I
Texas.
just got used to like one part of vile racism and sodomy, and now I'm in Glasgow where it's okay, exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean the difference is I think in Texas they shoot you, they hang you from a tree, and they burn a cross in your garden, and then in Glasgow they just stab you regardless of who you are. Like yeah.
I was gonna say, like, the only real difference is that we don't have guns.
Very true. It would be
Yeah.
scary. It'd be scary if we did, if it was guns instead of knives.
Mm.
But I mean, I don't live too far from. Well, I'm on the border of the Weston and Maryhill. I'm North Kelvin side, but my postcode really is Maryhill. So when I was sitting, we were doing parents' evening through Zoom, and we heard a few what could have been fireworks. So we're thinking, were those gunshots? It was Maryhill. So
Yeah, I actually got a fright last night. One of the guys was came over to do a recording, and we heard like a massive bang, but it was one of those like souped up motors that went past as well. And I looked at him, I was like, "So was that a firework or a car backfire?" And he was like, "I have no idea. Let's just keep driving." And I was like, "Good plan."
you don't want
So
to
how?
hang about it to find out, you know?
No, definitely not. Like I'm sure we could have read about it in today's news. There was nothing there, surprisingly. Must have been a slow news day. So how did you find like coming back, like coming from Texas, coming back to Glasgow? I know like touched on it a little bit, like, joking wise that maybe the accent would have been a bit more difficult. But how did you find like, coming back?
No, in all honesty, what I found was the first thing was that it was if the sky had been lowered, because in
Hmm.
Texas, open blue skies, the clouds were actually higher in the sky. So it felt as if the sky had been lowered. The other thing, because Texas was lots of open space, like between buildings and between it. So there was like a house, a big space, another house. There's no such thing
Hmm.
as tower block flats. It was more a case of one apartment separate, next apartment. So everyone had space and big gardens and lots of open land. Then suddenly I came here where the ceiling had been lowered with these gray
Hmm.
clouds below, and then the buildings all close together and all. I'd never seen semi-detached or completely attached houses, so it was just like it felt as if all the walls were sort of closing in.
Well, and also because like you're feeling like the sky's lower, but you're having high rise flats as well. You would have been like
Yeah.
looking at some points going, I can actually see through the clouds. This must be like being in an airport or an airplane or something.
It just felt as if everything was just all closing in. So
Yeah. So how did like getting into stand-up comedy come about for you?
that's a good question. No one in the comedy world's asked me. I'm glad you asked that question. I've always wanted
Well,
to answer
that's how I always say I'm the outsider of the comedy world because I'm not actually funny. I'm just a nosy get.
that. You are funny. I've seen you do stand up. You,
Well,
yeah, you
thank
had
you.
some, yeah, you had some good material, and yeah, the delivery was. I thought the delivery was there. It was definitely there.
Thank you very
Um,
much, my friend. I appreciate that.
how did I get in? And the Lincoln's a hard place to perform, by the way, because
Mm,
the two previous times I did bomb, I think I got lucky there the other night. But
mm,
the way I got into stand up was it was my dad's birthday. It was his 80th birthday. It was 2 years ago. There was a
mm.
massive family reunion, and I was asked to do a speech. So I did a speech, and everybody just found it so funny, and they're all coming up to me and they're all saying, "You need to do stand up. You need to do stand up." And then I thought, okay, I'm going to try stand up. But what I did wrong is I went along to venues that were not stand-up venues. I went along to open mic music nights and music only. So I went to the Rum Shack 3 times, and it was very
Oh,
odd because the Rum Shack was nobody's ever stood up and done comedy there. So yeah, it was very mixed. Like you did get a
mm,
few laughs, but not a lot. So it was a bit soul destroying to be
yeah.
to
I mean, I could sympathize with that a little bit as well because one of the things that I did, I think it was back in about 2016, 2017. Well, I released a parody album like, to raise money for a theatre group for kids with additional support needs. And parody albums are basically, comedy, but to song, Weird Al Yankovic style. And
okay.
I thought, I want to try this live and see how it goes. It did not go well. They were very much we like either comedy or we like singing. You can't do
Yeah.
both at the same time. So I very much died on my backside. I did two of them and I was like, this ain't working. But I got a few album sales out of it, which was good because they were like, you might have been funny if we could actually hear you singing. And I was like, well, have a listen to me singing about my cat, to the
but
tune of the Kinks' Lola.
to me, singing with comedy like you did, that takes a lot of skill. I think because you got to have two skills, combine two skills, singing and comedy.
Hmm.
It's almost easier just to do comedy or just to sing. So I've got a friend from Texas. He sends me stuff all the time, and he sends me his website. And he does that. He sings and does comedy at the same time. I went to school with this guy in Texas. He
Oh
was like,
wow.
oh, yeah, yeah.
That's fantastic. Like, you'll need to send me some of his stuff so I can check it out as well.
I will definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about how I got into stand up. So during that whole
Mm.
family reunion, I just was speaking about my dad, and I was just saying a story about how my dad he couldn't say the word balls, so he would say sorry, he couldn't say the word bowls for like cereal bowls, so he would say
Yeah.
ball. So instead of cereal
Oh,
bowl,
right.
and I was just telling a story how I was at school one day and holding a stack of cereal bowls, and I said to a classmate, grab my balls. I was talking about the cereal bowls because I was speaking the way my dad spoke, because we speak the way our kids speak when we're kids. Because I was just a kid, and some boy ran up to me and grabbed my balls so hard that one of the balls got lodged right up. And I was telling that story, everyone was laughing so hard. And then so after that at school, for the rest of my, child in Texas, the rest of the time when I was at school, I had the nickname the Uniballer.
Oh my God.
And once I moved to Scotland a couple of years later, in Scotland, because of the damp conditions, and we
Mm,
more with sinuses than I was in Texas. So I just did
yeah.
this one day where I was like squeezing my nose and blowing as hard as I could,
Mm.
and I heard a, and then the ball dropped, the one that was lodged up there.
Well, there you go. Like, Scotland gave you one advantage. You grew a pair,
Exactly,
like
exactly.
literally. Oh wow! So you had your few nights at the open mics, and obviously, I mean, that would have been an experience which obviously I've sympathised with. But what? So did you finally get around to going to the proper open mics, or did you like? How did you feel after doing it?
Yeah, so my first proper open mic, I met Ewan McPherson at a an Italian cooking.
Oh, Ewan's a brilliant guy. He's so lovely. Such a great guy.
Very nice guy. I love this guy, and I heard him speaking to someone else about stand up, and I quickly ran to the car, my car outside the middle. I was meant to be cooking. Ran out because I'm
Mm,
like, stand up. I need to know where to go because I didn't know where to go. And then
mm.
he introduced me to WTF forum, and then he said he's like, look, there's so much going on, and he mentioned Lolsa, the salsa
Mm.
bar, the one that
Yeah.
Kyle Samuel sense of security, because I got like a lot of laughs, and it went really well, and I
Mm.
felt really confident. And then I went ahead to a open mic at Blackfriars when they used to do on I think it was a Sunday night. I think it was
Yeah.
one Ian Pringle would run, and at the end you go up and you do your stand up. So I went up and did there, and it bombed, and I well, not bombed. It was very mixed for me. If I get mixed reactions, I see it in my head as a bomb because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I
Ah.
felt really down, and I over obsessed with trying to improve. And then I went along to the, what is it called, the lounge, for their open
Yes.
mic, and it went like extremely well. Got overconfident, but I got in this weird pattern where I would like smash it one time and then bomb the next two or three times. So
Yeah, that is something that's very interesting for like guys like me. Like, I've only just been starting to get back into it, and it's the
yeah,
same thing where like the night that we done, I thought I did okay. Like, which is compliment for myself. I'm not
yeah,
very confident person when it comes to that. I thought I did all right, cool. And I had at time of this recording, like 2 nights ago, I was down at the junkyard in Hamilton, and I did a 5 minute set. I did the same stuff that I done there because it was my first time trying new material. I thought, right, I'll give it a go. It's a wee bit more polished, and it died in its arse. But it was this case of like the comedians laughed, some
yeah.
people that I knew laughed, but there was like a group of students who weren't there for comedy. They were there for something to eat, and then they just kind of got
That's the problem.
sat in amongst this comedy. So I did say to them, if you don't laugh, I understand. You're here for a meal. Well, just let me know so I know not to look at you. And they were like, okay, we just want to have our meal. And I was like, that's fine. I'll talk to these guys. Well, so that was that. But because of that, I had that kind of psychological, this is going bad straight from the get go.
Okay.
And it was like, just what everybody's saying, you did good. And I'm like, I don't think I did. And I just
And you
bombed.
probably did, and you, because I thought Lincoln you were good, but I think it sounds like a junkyard you probably did even better than you did at Lincoln, because you said it was more polished. I think you sort of, I think your delivery must have, everything must have been better. But had you had the right audience there, you would have got like loads of laughs, because the
Hmm.
comedians were laughing, and it's hard. It's hardest to get laugh out of other comedians.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say so. And Well, it was just something that I found quite interesting when you said that. You went from I was having a high, and then if it wasn't as good as the last one, you'd feel like it just dropped down. Like, I think that's
Yeah,
something like that a lot of comedians do struggle with if they go from like one thing where it's just like, whoa, I had a great one, and then they go to the next one, it's
yeah.
like, wow, that's bad.
It's
But
hard. It's hard. And I
yeah,
think my problem is I would obsess over my set. So like
mm,
so I've been doing this for a year, yeah, year and a half, and it's like, see, when I go, I do this now. So when I go to bed tonight, I'm gonna be running through my whole set in my head. This is what I do. This is
yeah,
what I do. When I go in the shower in the morning. So it's like, although I work full time in a high pressure job, commercial investment portfolio investment, I find that
mm,
easy. Like easy just because of experience. I used to find it hard. And stand-up comedy, I have found a real challenge. And it's for the first time. So I've been doing a year and a half intensively, had a three
mm,
month break, and now for the first time I've had like I've done six stand-ups, open mics now in the past 3 weeks, 6 in 3 weeks. And
wow,
I've been really lucky and fortunate. Out of the six, five were smash. One was where no one
mm.
turned up. And so I've got now on Sunday I've got, what is it called, the Bungalow Sunday. Although my
Yes,
name isn't even on the list, I got a 5 minute there because it was more last minute.
mm,
Monday I've got the Burns Hall, and then Tuesday is Junkyard. I've done Junkyard once before, and I know what you mean. It's like
mm.
I bombed Junkyard last time, so I'm determined to not to bomb it.
Now, like, if you say like 5 out of 6 is still pretty good hits when it comes to it. Like, did you do the
But
Fringe this year?
my average is always 1 and 3 up until
Uh,
these last sort of six, Matt, because I feel as if I finally got my 10 minutes, like, and I think the confidence has finally come just because I think I got my confidence from Canongate in Edinburgh. I think that's a
mm,
really good gig for an audience that are really up for it, and I find the more cosmopolitan an audience, like the more I find easier, like they're like easier to get a laugh out of.
mm. Well, you're mentioning Edinburgh there. Did you do the Edinburgh Fringe this year?
I didn't. So that's when suddenly my ex-wife moved. Well, didn't move. My ex was as if she's moved. My ex-wife went abroad. She never let me have the kids for more than once a week because she just was generally difficult. So she went
Mm,
abroad and she's not come back. It's been 3 months. I've been landing with three kids living with me. So I just
wow.
stopped comedy for 2.5 months. That was during the fringe. I was booked for like maybe a couple of things, but I let them know well in advance. I just physically can't make it because one kid's starting uni, another child going through a lot of issues, and then yeah,
Yeah,
so it's been crazy. And I've still got
yeah.
two of them. One of them I've just kicked out, and he's homeless. He didn't behave, didn't follow
Mm,
my rules. Not
that's
moving.
fit.
He's not. He's moved to Edinburgh. That's why I didn't cancel his day.
You're just like, okay, bye. But
Yeah.
that's something like for me to ask about as well. Like, I mean, I've just recently separated from my wife, and like the kids are with her because I'm at the moment I'm not stable enough to have them just now. But
Yeah.
how did you find that going from like the once a week part to having them essentially full time?
At first it was okay. So to put in the picture, I was married 17 years. Got married young, had kids
Mhm.
young because I look young. I think sort of. Not
You
really.
do look
I
young,
do.
my friend. Yes, you
I
do.
lie to myself every day. So I was having them once a week, and then so you have a plan in your head, don't you, with these things? So I was only meant to have them for 3 weeks. She was meant to come back, so I had three
Mm,
weeks. So three out of those, 2 out of those 3 weeks, I was gonna go abroad with them. I booked Turkey abroad. That meant no cooking for me, no cleaning, no nothing. So I thought,
mm,
okay. And to make it easier on myself, I made it 3 days at my place, go abroad for 2 weeks, 4 days back at my place, and then she's back. So that even splits up the time because when they're at my place, that means cooking, cleaning, everything goes
mm.
on me as well as working. But then, long behold, she never came back. She's coming back sometime in November. So how did I cope? When we got back from Turkey, it was very stressful because
Yeah,
I'm OCD. Like everything has to be in its place. I'm very like I can't even have a glass lying out that's empty. It can lie out if someone's using it, but as soon
yeah,
as that like I'm like so OCD when it comes to tidy, and suddenly you've got these small
mm,
small beings in your space. But
yeah.
but oh, I think it took a long time, but for these past sort of 3, 4 weeks, I love having them now. I just
Mm.
yeah,
It's interesting talking about like the adjustment of how to go about it. That was something like when I mean having twins was not like in the manual. from what I
Wow,
thought.
okay.
I thought it was going to be, it would be one and done. Someone up there thought it was the pregnancy. That
Wow.
was that. Well, and that was something that I really did struggle with.
Are
Was
they
like all of a sudden there is
identical
this.
or
Yes, they're
identical?
identical,
Oh wow.
identical twins.
It
Well,
puts a
and
strain on a marriage when kids come along. It really does, or on a
yeah,
partner. It puts a
yeah,
big strain.
and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love them to death. And being apart from them is heartbreaking. But there was that point where I was like, it's a total shift, not from just thinking, oh, I might have one to all of a sudden there's two, and then they were premature. Like they'd spent 6 weeks in hospital, what had them back, and everything was just, it went from being there was support to, right, you guys are on your own. And it was the space, and again, like it was the space thing. I couldn't cope, I couldn't figure it out. And to be honest, I'm maybe still trying to deal with that. But I mean,
And
it's that
there's
way.
no manual. There's no training for being a parent, is there?
Yeah, those parenting guides that they give you, they're fecking liars. They only account for if you have one child. There is a tiny section about multiples, literally like
Yeah.
2 or 3 pages in one book that I was given out of like 5 books. Because the rest of it's like, well, just double it up. It's fine. I'm like, that's the type of talk from people who have never had twins.
Sounds like you need to write a book because there's a niche in the market there. A
Yeah,
book
I
for
think,
people that have twins because people do have twins and there's no guidance out there. I mean, hats
yeah,
off to you. Well,
like,
because having one small baby, one small being to look after is so all consuming, and then
mm,
suddenly to have two at the same time, I don't know how you do
yeah.
it.
I mean, in fairness, like see anybody that like goes like they have a child and then they go, right, we could have another. I envy you guys because you realize that you're actually stable enough that you could do that again. You could do like the night feeds, you could do the nappy changes, all this kind of stuff again after going through it the first time, and you're not completely broken. Well,
The exhaustion is such a killer.
the
But I think
tiredness really does kill you, doesn't it?
what age are your twins?
They're 5. They've just started
Okay.
primary school. Well,
See,
so
it's gonna get like easier and easier. So I mean, what I find is my youngest is now 11, and I've got to say the time really flies by. I mean, really
hmm,
flies. My
yeah.
eldest is my eldest is 18, and my daughter he's 15. But the
Well,
time, just keep that in mind. Is no stage as hard as any stage seems. It doesn't last forever. And I was told that they only. I was given advice that the worries they're always going to be there, but the worries only change as they get older. But
yeah.
no, I think when they were 5 and under, there was much more worries. I do find it a lot easier now, much easier now.
Yeah, well, and it's that thing. I don't obviously begrudge having them, not in the slightest. I love them more than anything. Like they're the best wee boys in the world. Like I'm so proud to be their dad. And it's even little things like when they were 2, we were building like a block tower. And they put, I actually told this in a recent episode with Jimmy Longmuir. They built a wee tower with them, and it was one of those ones where they wanted that picture taken, and Alison luckily got it. And I had a feeling that if they didn't get it, it would be like one of those ones, the dad, you missed it kind of ones. So I've kept it on me, and I'm going to show them it when they get to like their teenage years and go, look, this is the picture you really wanted, and see if they really are upset about missing a picture like that. If they'll go, "How the fuck did you take a picture like that, da?" Now, like, first of all, lose the accent. Second of all, but, but yeah, but it is those little things, and it's like if I see anybody, like that's got like like a newborn or like a toddler or whatever, like I feel a sense of smugness, which isn't meant to be there, but it's like I did that, but with 2 of those buggers, and I survived it, and I'm nuts.
I take it you used to have a full head of hair before the kids.
Yeah, well, I used to have like proper haircuts as well. I was very well kept. I didn't have glasses. What I was only like 60% mentally broken. It's now 98. But again, that's more me not knowing how to deal with them rather than actually being them. Alison's fantastic with them. Like she's absolutely brilliant with the kids. Like she can roll with the punches, whereas I can't. It's very much I'm a routine kind of guy. Like when you talked about the kind of OCD thing, I always have a thing where I line up the remote controls like you would a bar signal on your phone.
I line them up as well. So before I go to bed at night, I always have them lined up, and I keep them lined up.
Yes.
But I've sort of learned to let that go. But once they're in bed, I line them back up again.
Yeah, I actually realized that I've accidentally upped my game because in the temporary flat that I'm in just now, well, we've got like a wee two drawer chest of drawers. I've got like the four drawer and I've got like the cupboard. And I didn't realize it until I changed the room around. Like, because my dad had said, like, shift the bed round so it's facing that, like, facing out to the window, what might help your moods, kind of thing. And I was like, unusually insightful advice from my dad. I'm going to give that a try. So when I moved the room around, I'd arranged the cupboard, the chest of drawers, and the two drawer into that same Wi-Fi signal kind of like barrier. I was like, I haven't let it go. I've just leveled up. It was well, it was one of those ones I was like, oh my goodness. It's like even like before we came on, I just finished the can of Pepsi and I was like, right, and I've got to jump on now. Well, it's time to get it on. The can is sitting at the table, and I am like, I need to get rid of that
Stressing
can.
about it.
Stressing about it. Yeah. Yeah. But
That's me. But and over these 2 or 3 months, I've had a like I can have anything lying about anywhere, right? And then I'm
yeah.
going to show you something. This is the room my daughter's using. It used to be my office, so she's using
Hmm.
this room, and there's literally no drawers. So there's a wardrobe there. That's for jackets, but there's only a space for a bed because there's
Yeah.
going to be no drawers. So for her clothes, this is the clothes, and it stresses me. She's not stressed about it. This stresses me. I'm going to show you where the
Hmm.
clothes are kept.
Right.
They're kept in.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I know.
Oh. Yeah. That I can understand that so much.
But
I
I
can
to be fair, I've bought a new chest of drawers, but there's only space in my bedroom, so like she
mm,
keeps like her good stuff in there. But yeah,
yeah.
that extra stuff.
Yeah, even then I would be like, right, like lining it up into sections, like like getting like wee dividers, like your socks like that, like and any
Oh
underwear
yeah,
like there, any t-shirts, like blouses or whatever there. Well, I would be like that, and Alison would probably look at me going, Andrew, what? I'm so glad you're out of this house now.
yeah.
What?
Well,
But she had,
when you said about going 98% crazy, I think the last 2% gets done by the ex. She does that other 2% too.
yeah. Well, the other 2%, like I think it just got lost in the ether somewhere. I think it's just like 1% each, and one in Kieran, one in Connor. What is like they have time to grow into that insanity. Like I'm confident for them. It's like, but I mean, unfair, like I said, unfair stance. She has a fantastic mum to those boys. She can roll with the punches, like, and she still like what makes sure that I'm okay as well. Like one of the times we took them to like Anchor Boys like they together, like, and because we're so many kids, it was like the noise in my head just cranked right up, and I freaked out. I had to just run out the hall. Well, and well, after she dropped to make sure she was all right, she was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Nope, I do not know where this has come from." She's like, "Okay, let's just into the car, went somewhere, we just went for a wee bit of shopping." She's like, "How's it here?" And I'm like, "It's still really loud." Just like it's dead quiet in here, Andrew. It's like there's only like three people in, including us. When I was like, she's like, "Can you hold out until we get to the checkout?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay, then we'll come back to mine. We'll have a coffee, and then we'll go back and get the kids." And it's like, and she was just like, "I just want to make sure you're okay." Well,
That's
and
amazing, amazing
yep,
lady. But
yep,
I think some people they can't tune out. Some people can tune out the extra noise and it
mm-hmm.
becomes background noise, and then there are some people that become hypersensitive to sound and seem to
Yeah,
tune in everything. That happens to me when I'm sleeping. So I'm trying to sleep, and if there's any noise, suddenly I'm tuning into it all. When
yeah,
normally I wouldn't have
yeah.
done
That's the thing I found the hardest since kind of moving out is that because I'm on my own, it was like any little noise. It was like, "What's that?
that.
What's going on out there? What's going on?" Like even if there's like the slightest little hint of someone talking, I'm like, hide.
Yeah.
It's like
or
straight under the
or,
covers and
or if you
everything.
or if you watch a horror film for some reason after horror films or during horror films, I can usually hear like banging or knocking somewhere. And
Mm,
normally I'm by myself, so normally the kids aren't here, so it'll be dark, cold, and I'll be watching, you know, a horror film where someone's like Wolf Creek, where he's butchered everyone up, and then suddenly I'm
mm.
sure I hear banging or knocking on a wall inside, and I'm like, someone inside, or you think there's
Yeah,
footsteps, someone there. Well, because once you're by yourself, you start to hear everything.
yeah, and it's like if you're on your own somewhere, it just becomes an entire haunted house.
Yeah, true.
just
Very
straight
true.
away. It's like, well, we are starting to come up on time. So one thing that I do want to do before we get into the final question is for any of my audience that want to find where you, like, you know, your socials for finding you for comedy, like, this is the point where you can sell, my friend, sell.
I really need to update things, but I was on TikTok just with my name, Ray Kohli, but I'm gonna change it all to Brown Diesel just to go along with my my, my
Another
TikTok
great
name.
joke that he did use when it was in the set.
Yeah, so good. You got good. You got good memory. Yeah,
Mm.
all because I look as if Vin Diesel's mom went and shagged the man from local Indian takeaway, and as a result, you get that illegitimate bastard child, Brown. So I've got to change it to. But the moment it's Kohli, Kohli, and it's on. Most of my stuff is on TikTok. I've got minimal on Instagram, Ray Kohli. On Facebook, anything I put on, nobody watches, nobody likes. It doesn't. But
Mm.
TikTok's one place where I've gotten a really good response. But since my resurgence, since the 5 out of the 6 have gone really well, I've not really put any of that on TikTok because I'm waiting for my eldest son because I'm not good with technology. I'm waiting
Mm.
for him to make it into 30-second segments or into shorter segments. So I'm
Yeah.
waiting to do that for me, and he's too
Yeah.
busy gaming, making YouTube videos, chasing birds that don't exist, and
So he's basically 18 that I was doing at 36.
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, he's like obsessed with IT and stuff. He's like,
Mm.
yeah, really,
Oh, good, good,
really.
good. Well, and what you've essentially, what you have done the right thing. You have outsourced the jobs to your son. That is the great part of being a parent.
Yeah, it's a great part of being a person is delegate as much work as you can in life.
Definitely. So I'll ask you the final question that I ask all my guests.
Of course.
If you could give one piece of advice to anybody struggling with mental health issues at this point in time, what would that piece of advice be and why?
So I've got three pieces of advice. I actually struggled with mental health myself going back 17 years ago,
Mm.
and I try to hit it from every angle possible. I believe just medication alone is not enough, and just doing, you know how there's all these self-help things. So if you go to a counselor, she will she will point towards certain apps and certain things online. But personally, I found meditating on my breath helped a lot. And before I started my working day, or before the kids moved in, before I had more time, I would like always meditate my breath just for like 5 to 10 minutes before I start my day. And you will not believe how clear my head was. But
Mm.
also the medication they prescribe, with me, it was amitriptyline. It's not normally, because I tried citalopram, it did not work, and many
Mm.
people said that doesn't work. Amitriptyline is not something they want to give you just because it probably costs them more, or they probably
Mm.
don't make as much money from the pharmaceutical companies. But I've got to say, no side effects, and it's been excellent. But the other thing I discovered is Buddhism, believe it or not. So
Mm.
up until recently, I was going to the Kadampa Meditation Center, and
Yeah.
that's where you would get like you'd go there, and they've got they call them courses, but they're not really courses. It's the same message every time they give you a talk. It's in a very like supportive atmosphere, and that's in
Mm.
Merchant City. But I believe they've got their branch classes like in Mulgai. They had me teaching in Mulgai at one point as well.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's where they give you a teaching. So they have you meditate in your breath before, they give you a teaching, and then they have you meditate on that teaching. And the teaching is not something lofty, it's not something religious in any way. It's more just how to overcome your everyday problems. And a big thing about it is impermanence, how the thing we're so worried about it, we're here today, we're gone tomorrow. It's like a bubble in
Mm.
a stream, and we're gone. And these things we worry and we get so stressed and anxious about, it's so short. Our time on this earth is so short, and just valuing just our impermanence in this life.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, I think it's right as well. It wasn't just one piece of advice that it is, because it's usually is. It's a mixture of things that will help a person. Like one thing that might work for one person won't work for the other. Citalopram, like I totally get that as well. But it didn't work for me. Fluoxetine, I was on that. It broke me out in
You found
hives.
that as well. So with Sachapam, I started running red lights when I was driving. It's like
Mm. It just
I don't
didn't have any knock. It was just like I was taking a Smartie. It was just nothing. It was nothing to me. Like the fluoxetine, I had a physical reaction to it. Sertraline, I was on for a long time, and then I got so bonkers that they were like, "Okay, you've ran through all the levels. You now have to go up to the next stage of crazy." And I'm like, the only time I've ever leveled up at something.
sorry,
But
sorry, sorry.
it's like,
What
because
level?
like, you know, with medication, you've got like your your lower
Yeah, yeah.
doses, like then your next ones, and your next ones. So they went, okay, you're up to the medium part of extra strength crazy. And I was like, thanks for that. But it's the same kind of deal. What it's like it might work for some people, it might not work for others. That's the whole point. I think it's try different things that will help your mental health, and if it benefits you as a person, then that's the main thing. And also, I want to say that I'm sorry that you've had to go through those struggles, but hopefully, by the shows like this and all people that have been on it, you're not alone, and you can always reach out to me, my friend, if you need it.
Oh, thank you, much appreciated, and same for you. It's like just let me like issues, problems, let me know because I've been through a lot of dark shit in life. So yeah, yeah, and you get through. You find a way to get through it.
Yep, everybody's a lot stronger than they realize, and that's something you don't realize until you've come out the other side.
Yeah, very true. And I really believe in a problem shared is a problem halved because I find once, I mean, as men, I guess we don't talk it through as much.
Mm.
It's an automatic thing where we don't just talk it through. So I think just sharing, talking it through with others, it does. I think it
Yep.
really does help because you get it out there at least, and it's not just in here and in here.
Mhm. Exactly, my friend. Well, Ray, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. And as I've said with a lot of the kind of comedians that I've been on and performed with, this guy has my review of funny as fuck. It is
Oh, thank
it is a legitimate certified crazy ginger stamp of approval. So you have that,
thank
my
you so
friend.
much. And it was an
Uh,
honor to be on. Thank you so much for doing this and for having me.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, man. And
Take
until
care,
next
buddy.
time, thank you. And next time,
Bye.
everybody, I have
See
been
you
Andrew
soon.
Durning. This has been the great Ray Kohli. Until next
Thank you
time,
so much.
take care.
Bye,
Stay
buddy.
safe.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.